Hello and welcome. I am Gimba Umar. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari meets with Kaduna leaders over violence in the state, vows that the federal government will take the strongest measures possible to punish the perpetrators. Labour unions hold rallies across the nation over 30,000 naira minimum wage demand, threatens to embark on nationwide strike on November the 6th. State governors offer to pay 22,500 naira as minimum wage against the 30,000 naira demanded by Labour. And a German ex-nurse admits to murdering 100 patients, making him one of the world's most prolific serial killers.
On Business News Tonight, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry describes Apapa gridlock as economic emergency that requires urgent intervention from federal government.
And on sports news tonight, World Football Governing Body FIFA bans former Ghana FA President Kwesi Nyantakyi for life over offences including bribery and corruption.
And from Abuja, police dispersed Shiite protests in Abuja as sect members clash with security forces for a third day. 400 protesters arrested.
We begin tonight from Kaduna State, northwest of Nigeria, where President Muhammadu Buhari has given a stern warning that the government will come down hard on the perpetrators of the crisis in the state. The president, who was in Kaduna to meet with major stakeholders in the state on ways to curtail the recent violence in some parts of the state, says it will no longer be business as usual for those he described as miscreants and merchants of conflict. He says that the government will bring those responsible to the latest killings to book to serve as a deterrent to others.
Even though calm is said to be returning to Kaduna State, it appears President Muhammadu Buhari is leaving nothing to chance with the convening of this town hall meeting as part of efforts to find a lasting solution to the security challenges that have become one too many in the state. The president, alongside his team, comprising the Inspector General of Police, National Security Advisor, and Director General of the DSS, are here to brainstorm with the people of the state, traditional rulers, and religious leaders in a meeting hosted by the state governor, Nasir El-Rufai. Apart from improved security, the governor believes peace requires more.
We believe that peace and stability require that justice be done for the victims of violence. Our society needs to see criminals being prosecuted and convicted for taking lives and destroying property.
Religious leaders on their part proffer solutions as well.
It is important that we also invest our energy in promoting very responsible procreation and responsible parenthood.
JNI every year calls for Ramadan tafsir to appraise the attitude of scholars who misused the member of pulpits.
Having listened to their contributions, President Buhari assures Kaduna State that it is not alone.
You have a partner in the federal government that stands ready to provide concrete support not only to Kaduna, but all states to help address the poverty and inequality that fuels some of these recurrent crises.
With commitment made by the government and the people, this meeting appears to have ended on a good note, but the coming days will matter the most.
In the meantime, the president has also met with some PDP South-South governors at the presidential villa in Abuja today. Governor Siraki Dixon of Bayelsa State, who spoke on behalf of the group, however, says that the meeting discussed issues of concern to their respective states and the country at large. Mr. Dixon describes the engagement as robust, with the president promising to look into the issues raised.
My colleagues and I came to have audience with the President to discuss issues that are pertinent to our country and also pertinent to our respective states. And we had, I think, a robust and fruitful discussion with the President, and he promised to look into it in any way possible. Thank you very much.
Now, which area? What area?
No, we don't want to go into those details.
Thank you.
State governors under the umbrella of the Nigeria Governors Forum have agreed to pay a national minimum wage of 22,500 naira. The chairman of the forum, Abdulaziz Yari, put forward this position in Abuja after an emergency meeting which had 18 states represented and also had the Minister of Labour and the Minister of Budget and Planning present. According to the governors, in agreeing to a national minimum wage, they are even more concerned about developments in the health, education and infrastructure sphere.
Following a meeting of Nigeria Governors Forum, where we deliberated on the national minimum wage, after a briefing from our representative and a reflected committee, we submitted as follows. The welfare of all Nigerians is our ultimate concern in all over the state. We are concerned about the infuriating economic situation experienced by vulnerable segment of our population. It is therefore considered position that since the percentage of salaries workers is not more than 5% of the total working population, our position must not just reflect a figure, but a sustainable strategy based on the ability and the capacity to pay, as well as reflective of all developmental needs in each state. It is in this sense that we feel strongly that acceptable minimum wage must be done in a manner that the total personnel costs does not exceed 50% of the total revenue available to each state. Governors therefore agree to pay a national minimum wage of 22,500 naira only. Thank you.
Meanwhile, the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, has criticized the Nigeria Governors Forum, the NGF, for arriving at a minimum wage of 22,500 naira as against the 30,000 naira allegedly agreed upon by the tripartite committee. NLC President Mr. Ayuba Waba, who spoke to Channels Television, describes the resolution of the governors as unknown to labour laws and contrary to the overall decision of the tripartite committee. The Labour leader insists that the committee that was inaugurated by President Buhari has concluded its negotiations and arrived at 30,000 naira. He also urged the committee to submit its report to the President, who will in turn forward it to the National Assembly for public hearing.
What the law recognizes is individual states as an entity. The Governors Forum is a political platform that is not recognized by law. And in all the processes of negotiation of minimum wage from 1981 to date, what is recognized is submission by states. And as I've said, 21 states make submission, and figures were quoted. And therefore, going backward and forward cannot actually assist us. In most cases, the state governors will go back to their state and say they are willing to pay anything that is accepted. They will come back to Abuja, hide under the Governors Forum, political forum, and said, well, we cannot pay. And I think at this point, let every state governor go back to his states, gather his workers and pensioners, and tell them whether he's willing to pay 30,000 minimum wage or not. Going forward, I think it's very clear. I think what the federal government need to do is not to bend forward and backward. Is to request that the report of the committee on the tripartite minimum negotiating council be submitted to Mr. President. Mr. President, in turn, should forward same to the National Assembly.
Well, earlier in the day, before the Nigeria Governors Forum came up with its minimum wage figure, the Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, had threatened to commence an indefinite nationwide strike on November the 6th if the federal government fails to meet its demands for workers' pay rise by November 5th. Leaders of the labor unions who led protest marches in different parts of the country insisted that the government must approve the 30,000 naira minimum wage and nothing less. Our correspondent Loretta Chiogo captures the highlights of the protests across the country.
The National Day of Mourning and Outrage, that's what the organized labor union tags its rally. The movement starts from Ojuelegba axis of the long stretchy Ikorodu Road and takes a break at Maryland.
We're on the road to protest the non-implementation and refusal of some governors not to pay 30,000 naira, which they voluntarily entered into. All of us here must accept that the labor movement has been asleep. And even if it's this one issue of minimum wage that will wake us up, we need to engage them. We are here to pass a clear message that no minimum wage, no vote.
I charge you, this is a must struggle. It's a sensitization to actually allow Nigerians to stock their houses, because the action of 6th November is going to be indefinite. Until minimum wage is achieved, there shall be no reverse to our movement.
The struggle continues to the Sacred Freedom Park in Ojota. The purpose of the sensitization rally towards its proposed industrial action on November 6 is simple and clear.
I'm a psychiatric patient by the grace of God, and I do go to my hospital. My daughter will write a JOS for me. For me to afford the JOS, it's very difficult for me. Look at the stream here. Since last 2 weeks now, my daughter has write the JOS for me. Since last 2 weeks now, my daughter has write the JOS for me to buy the JOS. I don't have much for me to buy the JOS.
Over 40 unions that make up the organized labor union in Nigeria have participated in this sensitization rally. This is about the 4th time this year that the labor union is getting on the streets to demand that the federal government adopts the agreement on the minimum wage. The streets of Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, Akure in Ondo State, and Abeokuta in Ogun State, all in the southwestern part of the country, play host to protesting workers. The demand is the same. Protesting workers in Kogi State march to the governor's office. They meet with the secretary to the state government, Folashade Arike, chief of staff to the governor, Edward Onoja, and the security advisor, Commander Jerry Omodara. Echoes from workers in Taraba State are not different. Their stance must be respected, or activities in all sectors of the economy will be brought to a halt. In Delta State, South Nigeria, the workers are addressed by an official of the Delta State House of Assembly who assures them of the readiness of the state government in collaboration with the State House of Assembly to comply with whatever agreement is reached at the federal level. Even though there have been dialogues between the federal government and some leaders of the labor union, the pressure group is not satisfied with the government's stance to retain the current 18,000 naira minimum wage. All is set for the union to embark on an indefinite strike come November 6 if the situation remains the same. Loretta Chiogo, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, we'll be looking at the face-off between Labour and the federal government over the payment of a new minimum wage. And we're being joined by a professor of industrial relations, Shola Fajano, also a faculty member of the Department of Industrial Relations, University of Lagos. Please stay with us.